Welcome to the Boosted Volunteer Podcast. We share the stories of dedicated Booster Club volunteers and the tools and strategies they use to run successful booster clubs. We also have sought-out experts on fundraising, volunteer management, and running nonprofits to share best practices. Hosted by Robin Eissler and Evan Eissler, you won't want to miss these great episodes that will help you run your booster club like a champ.
Hi, welcome to the Boosted Volunteer. I'm Robin Eissler, and today we're talking with Melissa Fortenberry, who is the founder and CEO of HeatSense. HeatSense is pioneering a performance and readiness platform for today's hotter practices. It pairs a lightweight, non-invasive wearable worn on the chest or bicep with an athlete app and a coach dashboard to make heat response visible in real time. It combines key vitals like core body temperature and heart rate with WBGT and AI to flag rising heat strain before performance drops and produce clear, coachable insights. Melissa, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So that was a lot of words, but basically HeatSense is an app with a wearable that allows you to monitor the body temperature of athletes and marching band students who are out there in the heat. Is that what I've got?
That's exactly right. Just to give you a little bit of my background, last summer when my son started back at football practice, I went to one of his first scrimmages and I was sitting in the stands and it was so hot. It was 107. The car said it was 107 degrees on the way there. And sitting in the stands, I couldn't self-regulate myself. I was dizzy. I couldn't catch my breath. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm feeling this sick in the stands, I wonder what's happening to the kids on the field. So I went home and researched everything I needed to know about heat. And that's how, several steps later, that's how HeatSense started.
Well, they always say that most businesses are started out of somebody solving a problem. So it sounds like you identified the problem and went after it. So where did you start? And can you give us a little background? Obviously, we're both based in Texas. So I see the news every summer of not just students getting sick, but in fact, some students have died from being overheated. And so it's a very serious problem in all of our activities with the students outside on these hot summer days. Where did you start and what did you learn along the way?
Sure. Once I started researching about heat, I learned some three really important things. The first thing is that regulations, whether you're looking at pro sports or all the way down through high school, they only deal with heat symptoms once someone is sick and their symptoms are life-threatening. So that's a problem to me. Dealing with symptoms once it's an emergency is too late. The second problem that I learned about was that the way that the guidelines that govern high schools and pros, they're weather-based. So we look at something called wet bulb globe temperature. That is the WBGT. And that is the temperature and heat with sun and humidity and wind. Actually, most people don't know that the heat index is actually the temperature in the shade. So when you look at the wet bulb globe temperature, what you're doing is applying a weather metric to an entire team or an entire band. And every single person, every unique body responds to heat differently. And so I found that to be a big problem, is that we don't understand how each individual is responding to heat with the way we look at heat today. And then the third thing I learned was that core body temperature is the most important thing to understand when trying to understand heat strain. And the way that core body temperature is measured today is with rectal thermometers. And I thought to myself, that definitely does not scale, and that is a problem we need to solve. So my background is technology and software, and that's immediately where my head went, was that there has to be a way we can solve this with technology.
Yeah, that definitely, we're not going to be able to measure that core temperature out on the football field, right? So it's amazing that you started sitting on the side of the football game. You've researched this all. So tell us a little bit about what the product does and how people can implement it into their programs.
So we have two solutions. One is the individual athlete solution. So we have an Apple app and a Google app, and it pairs with our wearable. The wearable is non-invasive. It's worn either on your bicep with a bicep strap or via a chest strap. And you pair the wearable with the app. And what we do is we look at some key vitals, including core body temperature, skin temperature, and heart rate, and we turn those vitals into insights. So we help you detect heat strain. One thing that people don't really know is that your skin is actually actively trying to cool you off. So you can't use skin temperature to look at heat strain. Your core body temperature is the temperature of your organs. And as your core body temperature increases with exertion, your skin's actually trying to cool you off. So we take all those vitals, we turn them into insights, and we can basically tell you before how your heat strain is changing.
So you would get an idea that a student or athlete is having heat problems probably before they might not even know it, right? You're seeing it happen on the app. And does it have a warning or a notification to say, hey, something's going on here?
Yeah, great point. We do have alerts and they can be set up as notifications. And we also have SMS alerts. So you can get on screen notifications, or you can add a parent or a coach or a trainer or a band leader, and they can get alerted based on your core body temperature. We have alerts for any of those vitals, as well as a heat strain index. So you can get alerted on any of those. And one of the cool things is that because every body reacts differently, you can customize those over time. So some athletes or band members may feel overheated and have symptoms at lower core body temperatures or heat strain indices, and some may feel more acclimated and have higher thresholds. So it could be custom to each
Person. We see a lot of the marching bands, they're out in August. Of course, it's September now, so we're cooling off, but they're out in August and they're on the asphalt and they're practicing. Sometimes they're in their uniforms. How does that compare to an athlete out on a sports field? Is that going to make the heat strain higher? And how do temperature and humidity and all those things impact that?
So I think that whether you're in a band or athlete, there are things that are negative in that equation. So the asphalt doesn't help. That increases the heat, just like turf does. And uniforms are also a part of that. Whether it's a practice or a game, the uniforms make it hard for bodies to basically cool off because they restrict the ability to cool off.
It's interesting. I didn't think about, but I guess turf rather than grass would be hotter because
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, synthetic. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, 20 degrees plus
Wow.
hotter.
Everyone talks about hydration. How does hydration impact that? And on this whole process on heat and hydration, how do you go from like, what's the fine line between being a concerned parent and like not a helicopter parent or what? And maybe your tool helps that, right?
Yeah. Well, I do believe that people have not been empowered. Parents haven't been empowered, and HeatSense will empower parents, empower coaches, empower band leaders because you'll have the data and you won't need to helicopter. I think right now the concern comes from the idea that you really don't know, and that's what's scary. So I think that having the data is important and HeatSense can help with that. Another important thing to understand for every parent is you can ask a band leader or a coach what their EAP plan is. That is an emergency action plan, and every school has one and should have one. This year, the UIL in Texas, that's the governing body in Texas, they actually have asked all of the coaches and athletic directors to have what they call a medical timeout before every game, where they're reviewing their emergency action plan with anybody on the field every game. So asking those important questions would help raise visibility and awareness of what the team should be doing, administrators.
So tell us a little bit how the technology actually works. So you've got the wearable and it's real time. So a coach could be like standing on the side of the field with a dashboard, or a parent's got the app. Can you just explain how that works a little bit?
Sure. So the team solution uses an iPad, and the difference is it can look at the dashboard will look at 50 to 100 players or band members. And we also have alerts. It'll work pretty similarly, but you can see everybody at the same time. So instead of seeing just one athlete, you'll be able to see basically the list of all of the players, and we can sort. You'll have the ability to sort those in descending order of heat strain or core body temperature or heart rate and dig into who may need to cool off. It really gives you those insights you need to say, hey, this person's body is reacting in a way that we probably need to proactively cool off. So we had a football player last week in Florida who came off the field at halftime and his core body temperature was 103 degrees. At 104 degrees, there can be life-threatening risks. And so knowing that, the trainer was able to proactively cool the athlete at halftime. So it's kind of a win-win. They have the data, they know to proactively cool. And so they're getting the athlete back into a zone where they can perform again and be ready to get back on the field.
There's probably some optimization it enables too. So you can, in coaching for sure, probably with athletes, that you can see what's happening. So maybe you can train a little harder, or maybe you need to train a little less harder, that type of thing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that HeatSense with those insights will allow you to know that you can continue to push or that somebody actually does need to cool off. Right now, I think that there's a lot of pressure put on band members, put on athletes to perform. So it's hard for those athletes to say, hey, I need a break because they want to prove their performance. And so this actually gives a data-based approach to being able to say, hey, they're actually pushing really hard and they just need a break. Or another 49 people on the field are just fine.
Yeah, it's definitely an individual body thing, the way it works and the regulation. How can parents advocate for better heat safety measures without overstepping their bounds? If this is something a parent wants to use, can they put it on their child, their student? Or how do you suggest that they approach the coaching staff with that?
I believe it's just going to be permission based in the short term. I think the team solution will be selling to the schools, but if an individual athlete wanted it, we believe it's not going to be a problem at the club, any kind of club or level sport. But in a school district, I think getting permission will probably be the only thing you need to do. We are hoping that just like a laptop is issued to every student, that we'll get to a place where every student is issued a HeatSense and that they can carry it throughout the year with them. For parents, I believe in advocacy. And so it is hard to know when you're pushing too hard. But I think that at the end of the day, both parents and administrators, their number one goal is safety. I've heard that said multiple times repeatedly across districts. And so I think there's always going to be alignment there.
Awesome. So, if parents listening and they're interested in learning more, where can they find out more information about HeatSense?
Sure. So we have a website. It's heatsense.com. And our sensors are available for purchase there. And you can download the apps as well from the app stores. So please go visit HeatSense and feel free to reach out with any questions if you might have them.
Awesome. So, where do you see HeatSense going in the future?
So the cool thing about data is that over time, you can use it to learn and improve. So we believe that as we are able to collect data and individual athletes have data, it'll be part of their story, right? So we'll be able to personalize insights for each athlete. We'll also be able to predict how they're going to respond in heat with that data. So personalization, prediction, preparedness, performance. We believe that over time, we're going to be able to provide much more insights along those lines.
That's great. So, you could really start with a student at a young age and work up and see how their body's doing over time, and then probably provide insights as they move, if they're going to move into college athletics and things like that.
Exactly. So while we do look at core vitals and provide those insights, we also do provide wet bulb globe temperature inside our tools. And so one example of that is to say, hey, you can look at how someone's acclimated. So in this type of weather, previously you responded this way. So, hey, today might be a high warning day for you. Just be careful, stay hydrated, be aware of any symptoms. Being able to give those kind of insights is going to be really important.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was reading about the wet bulb globe temperature, just this so many different factors can impact how it's going to impact your body, whether it's wind or humidity or the temperature. We always look at temperature, but we all know you go outside sometimes on a 98-degree day and sometimes it feels cool and sometimes it feels hot.
Yeah, one thing that people don't know is actually humidity is a big part of that. And the heat index and air temperature don't include humidity. So humidity can really impact how someone responds to heat. And that's an important part of the wet bulb globe temperature.
Interesting. I love learning new things. So this has been great. Well, I always like to wrap up our episodes with, as we like to focus on high school sports and activities. So, did you participate in any high school sports and activities? And if so, how did that impact your life?
That's a great question. So, my passion was always soccer. I was a soccer player, and back in the day, there weren't as many girls' soccer teams. So, I actually played on boys' teams until high school. And I think being on a team is a really important part of life. Losing's an important part of life. Learning how to fight for a win is an important part of life. And so I'm probably too competitive sometimes. That came naturally to me. But all of the winning, the losing, the partnerships are all great lessons and that people can bring into their adult life. So I wish I've tried to play as an adult. And every time I play, I think I'm still as in shape as I was in a kid, and I always get hurt. So I would be playing soccer today if I felt like I didn't think I was going to get hurt. But
Amazing how in our minds we're still 17. We can go out there and do the same thing. And then I'm like, whoa, I don't play volleyball anymore.
yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today. We will put a link in the podcast notes to HeatSense for anybody interested in the product. And if they need to get in contact with you, they can reach out to our team here at Booster Hub and we can connect you.
Great. Thank you so much.
And great job, Melissa, at finding that problem and creating a solution. I love watching that process and hearing about it. And you've done exactly that in a short amount of time, too. It's very impressive.
Thank you so much.
The Boosted Volunteer is brought to you by Booster Hub. To find out more about Booster Hub and how our app can help you improve communications, increase engagement, raise more money, and manage your booster club responsibly, visit www.boosterhub.com. And then make sure to search for Booster Club Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Booster Hub, thanks for listening.